As we gather virtually today, we respectfully acknowledge that we are on the ancestral lands and waters of the Algonquin people, who left their footprints on Mother Earth long before us. We recognize their longstanding relationship with this territory, which remains unceded. This acknowledgement should not function as closure, resignation, or acceptance of the past or present, but should spark a desire to learn about the true history of this country and provoke thought, reflection, and positive change. And that land acknowledgement was written by Graham Mastersmith. Some of you might know Graham, who is our Arts and Indigenous consultant for the board. And as we quieten our minds and center ourselves, we open our hearts and pray. God of light, fill us with hope so that we may radiate positivity. God of patience, teach us to persevere so that we might have strength and humility to do your will. God of peace, help us to be people of action and advocate for change. God of love, help us to be kinder and seek the good. Inspire us to do your will, and for all this we pray in your name. Amen. Over to you, Dr. Campbell. Thank you again and welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me again. Thank you so much for joining us in this wonderful, wonderful conversation we're going to have this evening, about becoming a champion and leader for equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I saw some of you saying you like the lyrics. When you came in, I was playing Stand Up for Something by Audra Day. And that is important. That's why I chose that song. And it says, the chorus says, I stand up for you, right? I stand up for you. And so that's what we're talking about this afternoon, being a champion for equity, diversity, and inclusion. How do we be a champion for these things? How do we be a champion in the work of equity, diversity, and inclusion? How do we, where do we go from here when we say we want to be a champion? And so it's important we understand what that looks like. When we say a champion, what a champion looks like. When we think about a champion, what is it that you're going to do when you say you stand up for someone? What is it you say we're going to do when you stand up for someone? You know, we are all champions. And I think that's something I want us to underline from now, that we are all champions, all of us in this work, all of us who is attempting to do this work. We're champions. All of us who are attempting here to do this work, we are champions, right? We are champions. We are here to make an impact. And I was talking to a group of preschool, early grade 1 to grade 3 the other day, and we're talking about a superhero and what kind of superpower they had, and realizing that their superpower is kindness. Their superpower is sharing. Their superpower is love. Those things are actually real. Those are real superpower that can make someone, you know, decide they're going to stay and they're going to grow and they're going to develop. And so many of us, we need to understand, we think about being a champion for equity, diversity, and inclusion. What does that really, really, really mean? And so I'm going to get into share my screen, and I'm going to get into a few things as we think about becoming a champion for equity, diversity, and inclusion. And we want to look at a few things today. We want to discuss the need for courageous conversations and action-oriented leadership. You see, we have been begging for that terminology. We have been pushing hard for the word action. So think about it, courageous conversations. I think a lot of us have grown. You know, I'm the kind of person that like to give encouragement and give power and give credit where credit is due. And I can say a lot of us have grown in how we're handling courageous conversations. Last year, I think early last year or before that, many persons, you know, you were afraid and you were uncomfortable. You'd very busy, timid coming in. Now I see it. I see the pleasure in which you come in the breakout rooms, the pleasure in which you log in, you engage, you say good afternoon. You know it's going to be a courageous conversation and you are prepared for that. And that is something I really want to understand, really want to underline, that we have come to the place where many of us understand the value of a courageous conversation. The next thing we want us to look at as we're getting into this afternoon is to evaluate our personal. We're still there. We're still there. This is not going to ever change. Our constant personal evaluation of our bias and our prejudice that have impacted our view and understanding of otherness. I was talking to someone today about a workshop, and she said to me, this is very rural, Dr. Campbell. This is white, 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 white. And I said, do you understand the implications of being in a space like that, where there's some of them, they are so unexposed? I said, I may be the first time they hear a Black person speak with any kind of power. It may be when I do that workshop. She said, yeah. So I said, how do we understand that? How do you receive that? So I need us to think about how we evaluate our bias and our prejudice and our privilege, and how those things show up in the work that we are doing. How do they show up in the work that they are doing? What do you think is nonsense? What do you think we should be long past? What do you think, oh, we're talking about that again? We have those kind of reactions, you know. There are teachers among us who have those kind of reactions in our school board. Oh, we're on the equity thing again. Oh, we're talking about Black Lives Matter again. Oh, we're talking about LGBTQ. And it's as if you are tired of talking about it when remember, the groups, the equity seeking groups, the equity deserving groups, they are saying, hey, see me over here. I don't feel like I belong. Can I get a space? Can I get a seat at the table? All the nice poetry and poetic things we like to say, they're begging for it. We want to also know how to identify, now this is a very big one, how to identify patterns of discrimination, inequalities, and injustices in our community. That for me may be the second most important one. You and I must be able to see injustice, understand it, inequalities, understand it, and name it. And sometimes it's not, listen to me carefully, I did not say calling it out. Calling it out is next level. First level is, do we actually understand what it looks like? We talk a lot about microaggressions. We talk a lot about micro insults and macro insults. We talk a lot about other things and stereotypes and assumptions. We talk a lot about lacking cultural competence. We talk a lot about what does it really look like? What does it look like when you see it? I was speaking to another person yesterday, someone who shared something very personal with me. And she was talking about all that is happening in our office. And she said, I wish I was back at the place where I was innocent and unaware. And I smiled because now she's seeing things and she knows what it is. She said at one point in her life, she was so unaware that even if they were talking something racist about her, she would just think it was a joke they were making. And then she realized, no, it's not. And how that happened is because certain things happened in the office and she got the aha moment that this is not right. So that's why I'm kind of stuck here with the conversation. I need us, I'm actually going to put this and turn this into red the next time I talk about this, because I need us to understand as educators, as leaders, as office administrators, as janitorial staff, as parent council, as super, whatever position you hold in this room this afternoon, or when you're listening, you have to learn and you have to know how to identify those patterns of inequalities. You have to know and how to address them. And they can be individual and they can be as a group. The next one is unpacking again, stereotypes. It's personal again. It's bias again. It's personal. It's unpacking. Here comes the big one, the favorite one for the day. So this is my number one. The other one is my number two. How do we develop action plan to acquire the skills? I want you to notice what I put there. I didn't say action plan to change everything. Notice what I said there. Develop a personal action plan to acquire the skills. Now we have to stop and talk about this for a minute. How do we acquire the skills? You have heard a lot of people, and I know some of you are maybe a little bit, let me stop here. Let me just stop here and talk to you a little bit here. I know a lot of you sometimes are a little bit at a place where you're thinking to yourself, every time we have this conversation, we hear the idea of invest in your learning, invest in your learning, invest in your learning, invest in your learning. I'm going to share with you 2 examples of what I mean by that. I was at a workshop the other day, a big talk, a big keynote. And when I was finished the keynote, a group that is, I was told they were raw, they are just learning, they're just getting into it, they're just getting there. And when the talk was finished, I got an email, a 5-paragraph email. I want you to listen to this carefully, Sherry. I got a 5-paragraph email from someone in the workshop telling me all the work they are doing and asking me what I said about 6 or 7 questions. And then the last sentence, they said, you know, maybe I shouldn't be asking you this because I'm supposed to invest in my own learning. And then that was the end of the email. And I replied and I said, no, thank you for whatever. But I said, your last sentence actually is where we're supposed to start. I want you to think about this for a minute. Some of you may not understand it as I want to take my time with it. What inside of you as a person, and I'm not talking about white people, I'm talking about white, racialized, all of us. What is inside of you that says to you, I just heard the guest speaker. He is a keynote. He's not the assistant to me. He's not the person who come to paint the building or sweep the floor or whatever. And that is also, that person deserves just as much respect. But I want you to get context, Sherry. What inside of you that could say to you, let me send him an email with 7 questions that will take him maybe about 2 hours to respond to me. Why? What gives you the authority to give me that kind of work to do? And I want you to understand this is what we have done. It's a pattern. I have had teachers who say to me, Dr. Campbell, I am trying to do this. Do you have any materials on this? I am not saying you shouldn't ask each other. I am not saying that. I am saying, what is your personal plan to get into, to grow, to get the skills? So let me give you an example. I remember doing AQ courses in First Nation Studies. I do 2 AQ courses, not for increase in salary, but because I needed to know more. And they were being taught by First Nations people, and one would be taught by First Nations person, and I needed to learn more. I have seen group of people who have made book clubs. That's a good one. I know a group of parents who decided to ask the school council to put together some money so they could do a series with me. I'm going to surprise you. When they were done with the series, one parent wrote me an email. She said, I am doing a lot of learning. She's showing me the learning, but she said, well, I need help. That's where you come in, Dr. Campbell. Can you help? She gathered a group of 10 parents, nothing to do with the school. And she wanted an evening conversation series with me. They did 3 evenings like this, you and I having conversations. I want to show you there are many ways to invest in your learning. I download things a lot, Sherry. I hear something, the other day I heard a terminology and I go, I need to read that some more, and I read. The other day there was a big debate. I've always known what cultural appreciation and cultural appropriation is. But there was some more discussion the other day, and I download some more stuff, Sherry, and I did some reading. Why am I stopping and pausing for this? Because tonight's topic is being a champion for equity, diversity, and inclusion. We cannot be champions if we don't know what we're doing. And let me just help you. A lot of us, we are fearful. I get it. I've seen it. We're fearful. And guess what? It's okay to be fearful. Let me tell you that it's okay. It's okay. But what do you do with the fear? Next week, I wish you were there Thursday night. Thursday night, we're talking about introduction to anti-Black racism. Don't miss it Thursday night. And I'm going to show you this diagram I use that takes you from fear. It says that there's a fear zone. There is a fear zone. The textbook, the researchers, the scholars says, hey, Sherry, it's okay to be a little fearful about making a mistake and saying the wrong thing. But are we going to come back next year the same time and that's going to be your excuse again? 2023, when I have another meeting, that's the same thing you're going to say? Because there are people who we have tracked, and that's the same thing they are saying. So like Mena said in the box, leading this work goes beyond equity committees. Build capacity system-wide. I have a proud moment to share with you. I did a six-part series with a school, a big private school, over 100 and something employees. And as the workshop is going along, like I know would have happened, certain persons start to emerge. They want to champion the cause. The principal had no problem getting a group of maybe about 9 teachers. If I tell you the work those 9 teachers are doing, I am impressed. They are looking at lesson planning. They are looking at resources. They're just building capacity, Mena, in ways that are amazing. They're planning their workshop for next year. Not me. I am not the one leading their workshops. They have done so much work. They are ready at the space and the place to share. Notice what I said. They are ready at the space and the place to share with others. So I wanted to pause for a minute just to us to understand what it means, how important it is when I say to all of us, I need you. I need you and I to invest in gaining the skills we need. I really, really want you to understand what I mean by that. So let's get back into it. That's why I stopped there to be so intentional about developing the skills. So ask yourself, look at number 5, ask yourself, how will I acquire the skills, knowledge, disposition necessary? How will I acquire it? You are doing it now. Tonight, you're attending a speaker series. But it may be having coffee with Julie and Tracy and unpack things. It may be having a series of 2 or 3 lunchtime chat with your friends. You're going to have, for when September comes, you may do every Wednesday equity lunch chat with your peers. There are many ways to grow. And all these ideas I'm giving you, people are doing it. There's a group that does a morning coffee, because there are morning people like me. A morning coffee, not me, I'm not a part of it. They meet for 30 minutes with their coffee online and they talk about one thing. And somebody reads, somebody shares, somebody do a reading. They are doing a read and share where somebody read an article and share from it. So people are growing. You have to build your capacity. And it's more than just a workshop. I would be dishonest if I say to you, no, don't do that. Wait for me to come. Let them hire me all the time to do workshop. Are you serious? No. I told you, one acknowledgement that you did a couple weeks ago has not left me yet. This is my 3rd time repeating it, Mena. I'm sure you realize it affected me. Impacted me. Because I've listened to a lot of empty land acknowledgement. And so I go, there's one. There is one. And I've been listening to land acknowledgements, and I've been thinking about land acknowledgement a lot. So I want to share this. I want to share this with you. This quote comes from the Stephen Lewis 1992 report. And I want you to read the terminology in it. He says, second, most of my meetings were astonishingly frank and helpful. They were also suffused with intensity. There is a great deal of anger, anxiety, frustration, and impatience amongst those whom I talked in the visible minority communities. They don't understand why it takes forever to fashion and implement race relation policies. Think about any policy. Think about what we're talking right now. Often during our conversations, there was a weary and bitter sense that I was engaged and they were engaged in yet another reporting charade. It was truly depressing, and it means I think that government initiatives must come soon, and they must be pretty fundamental. Think about that. That thing really hit me. That really hit me. Absolutely. I love that comment there, Allison. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know how you receive it, Allison, but I'm going to read it so we can read it for the recording. Allison is saying, I heard a quote that says, need to do the work to be a better ancestor. I love it, because what we are doing is that I will be that better ancestor 20, 30 years from now. So we have to do the work. And you may say to me, Dr. Campbell, you have done a lot of work as a champion. Yeah, but I can tell you there's a lot I have learned in the last 2 and 3, 4 years. I keep learning new stuff. I keep learning about things I don't know about. You have to spend quality time in doing that, because anything less than that is going to happen, is going to be a performance. And that is what is killing us. That is what we are running away from, the stage, the performance. Because when that happens, what happens is that we go unchallenged. We leave here unchallenged. We don't care. Right now, anybody realize right now, the 215 is already dying down in spaces. We were emotional 2 weeks ago. We've already moved on. Many of us already moved on. And there are other people who have said no. I know people like me. I have made it clear, any course I am teaching next year, when it comes to Orange T-shirt week, well, day, I turned into a week. I am planning a whole week of stuff at the university in my course around Orange T-shirt, Indigenous knowledge, learning. So I want to be challenged. I want to be changed. I want to be bothered. When we do not invest as champions, we leave here unchallenged, unchanged, and unbothered. We want to change. So here comes my big question. Who is a champion? And a champion, a person who fights, I want you to get this, or argues for a cause or on behalf of someone else. And when I looked into the thesaurus to understand who was a champion, I heard words like advocate, proponent, promoter, proposer. I love that one for a big reason. Proposer, supporter, standard bearer, torch bearer, flag bearer, defender, protector, upholder, backer, sponsor, prime mover. I love that one. And pleader for. Have you listened to those? You listen to those words? Who are you? How are you using your power and your access to be a champion? And I'm going to repeat this. I've said this a million times. I'm going to still keep saying it. Being a champion don't mean you need to go downtown to Ottawa and block the street. And the news says, there goes Neda. She tied herself to the school gate and nobody could come in. That's powerful. That's beautiful. But you don't need to do that. There are many ways you can be a champion. Many ways. Nouns, all verbs, nouns tied to action. I want you to understand there are many ways you can do. Today I read a beautiful proposal. I went to a meeting today with one of my leaders at OCSB, a white leader. And he has written a proposal to improve attract black teacher candidates in the MT program. It's a team of us. I'm on the team, but he started the work. 17-page document. And when we got it. So it's great news. And today when I was talking to him, I said, David, his name is David, I could say that. I said, David, this year is what advocacy looks like. I got goosebumps. I said, this year, there's a plan in place to go into schools and places and share with racialized students, Black and racialized students, about tertiary education, about becoming a teacher. We're using Black professors and Black candidates and racialized professors and hijab-wearing professors and lecturers and students to show our high school students this is a profession that you can find a space in. And we are being intentional about how we are sharing it with you and debunking the mystery of becoming a teacher, or debunk the mystery of getting into a place like University of Toronto or OCSB. It's intentional. Think about your work in your school. What are you doing intentionally? What are you going to do intentionally? Many ways to do the work. Many ways to do the work. So I want you to get into that frame of mind that what is it that I am going to do intentionally when I'm doing this work. So the next one is, let's move on a little bit now. So we talk about the same powerful words, equity. I want to get into those 3 words today for a reason. So it's a condition or a state of treating all people respectfully. Equity does not mean treating people the same. So that was equality. So at one point, if you remember, we were all into equality. It was a big move for equality. Anybody remember that? And then we realized, well, if we give everybody the same thing, we're going to have some people still lacking and some people wasting, because we all don't need the same thing and we all don't need them in the same proportion either. And so I love this picture for a reason. I use it a lot and I use this example. Equality says give every single child one apple. That's what equality says. But watch what's going to happen, Sherry. We are going to give the same little boy who says he's full and he doesn't want an apple. Equality says give him an apple. The child that says, Miss, I'm allergic to apple. You get an apple too. Miss, I don't eat apple. Well, you get an apple too. Well, Miss, my mom owned the apple store. Well, you get an apple too. Miss, my dad owns an apple farm. Well, you get an apple too. You see what's happening? We have to realize, that's why we have to get to know our students to understand what is it that they need from us. What is it that they need from us? Some students need 1 apple. Some students need 3 apples because they have to take home 1. Metaphorically speaking, some students did not eat breakfast. They need an extra apple. And some students have to secretly, after school, meet them at their desks and slip 2 extra apples in their bag so they could take home. Think about that as a metaphor, what that means in your school. I'm a person who have done quite a bit of accommodation for my university students, and you'll be surprised the different kind of accommodation people need. You'll be surprised what's going on in people's lives for them to get an extension. Many people need different things. I've had from domestic violence, students shared with me, from domestic violence to homelessness to something else, to something like, sir, it's my mother's 90th birthday and we had to go for the weekend. Like different levels. So equity, we have to think about how we're operating. Diversity, think about it's a conscious, that's the word I love. It's a conscious acceptance. Some of us are not there yet, you know. I want you to realize why I love this simple meaning. Simple, but it's powerful. It's the conscious acceptance, belief, and recognition that differences exist. That's what it is. It's the conscious recognition that differences exist. And the diversity includes all the ways in which people differ. And it encompasses different characteristics. So there's a big one I want you to make a note of, because sometimes we see the visible differences, but we have to remember there are invisible differences. And that is why sometimes we get in trouble, because we have had people accuse people of, well, I don't think you're disabled, or well, you don't look like you have a disability. There are many people with invisible disabilities. There are many people with anxiety issues that they're afraid to tell you. There are many people who have to take a pill to come to school and a pill when they go back home, but they're not going to tell you why. So when we think about accommodating people, sometimes we need to see persons who are burdened down, or they're broken, or they're sick, or they're throwing up, or they're hurting in school, to realize that they need it. But diversity includes the range. And I want you to think about that. And the next one is inclusion. And I want you to notice how we frame inclusion. I love how we frame it. Inclusion is the conscious. Now remember, we said diversity is the conscious acceptance. Let's write down those two words. Conscious acceptance that the differences exist. Now look what inclusion says. That's why I love this one. Look what inclusion says. Inclusion says the conscious behavior and action to recognize and accept persons, places, or things. The inclusion, the intentional representation there. I want you to think about that for a minute. Both use the word conscious. So let's jump right into the chat right now, and we're going to answer this question. Why do we need champions in this work? Why do we need champions? Let me stop sharing. Why do we need champions? Think about your school. Think about who is a champion, the pleader for, the stand between, the proponent, the proposer, the standard bearer. Why do we need champions? For change to happen, to facilitate, to guide, to support, to normalize a student voice, to show our students we care, to be a voice for those who feel they don't have one, to start the movement. Power imbalance is important. It exists. We need champions for that, to be an example to our students. Jamie, I want you to understand more and more. I think in the last 3 months, people are now understanding when we say representation matter. There are big people are now telling you, I had nobody that looked like me, so I could become like them. The disrupt the past, the effect change, voice and acceptance. Disrupt always been done. Students to trust us. I love this one, Dean. Challenge the status quo, to start the conversation. Thank you, Julie. To start the conversation. Many are not involved. That one, Krista, is one of my favorite today. Modeling. Powerful one, Krista. Modeling. And you know what, Michelle? When you said to take on the hate so they don't have to, powerful. You know, I keep on telling people, there are many ways for you and I to be a champion, Michelle, to be an advocate. Let me change it. Many of us have missed opportunities to be a champion. Many of us, we are missing opportunities to be an advocate. Many of us, we are missing opportunities to be change agents. We are missing opportunities. You know, I say to principals, I said, when they're talking about planning their staff meeting and their sessions for next year, I said, I would be sad if there's nobody in the staff who would raise their hand and say, let me do a 30 minutes talk on something. It would be sad. I could see many of you, Allison and Jody, and many of you have been here all the time. I know you have seen you, to say, no, I don't think I have the power to do it. That's a missed opportunity. That's a missed opportunity to share with others. So I want you to realize there are many ways to do it. This particular school I told you about, they are working on topics. So this is what they're doing, Allison. They are looking at grade levels, subject, and topics like social studies, science, music, art, drama, dance. They're looking at all the different subjects. And the teachers are putting themselves in teams, and they're building this document on intentional ways they're going to insert the equity conversation for the right age range. So the kindergarten teachers are saying, well, we could do it this way. And the grade 4 teachers say, well, we could do it this way, but it's the same topic. So this is where your teaching skills come in. This is where your scope and sequence comes in. This is where, and I'm going to tell you why I am so impressed with them. There's a bunch, about 9 of them I told you, who they don't have my kind of voice, but they realize they're curriculum people. They're curriculum people. So they rushed to join this committee, and the right people joined it because they are curriculum people. So you have to know what you're good at. What are you good at? What are you good at that you can use? What are you good at that you could use? What are you good at? Some of you are good at making connections with the community. Some of you are the one who can bring the community in. And you fold your hands, and the principal is struggling with the community, and and because she's new, and you know to bring the community in the school, say to her, let me take on the task of bringing the community into the school. You need to work at being a champion. Use your skills. Of course, Jennifer, you are right. Jennifer says almost every vital component of life at school as a champion. We turn to someone for sports, for drama, for math, for dance. Absolutely, Jennifer. You are right there. The curriculum mapping. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, Allison. The curriculum mapping, the counter narratives should exist at all grades. But I can do it. You alone can't do it. Sherry alone won't do it. Jennifer alone can do it. But all of us can work at it. So I want us to be intentional. That is why I wanted this conversation to be intentional about how we do this. So let's get back into our sharing. Let's get back into our sharing, everybody. Wonderful sharing. So, what are you seeing there? This is why we need we need the champion. You have seen this many times. The reality. Look at what equality says. Look at what equity says. And we have these realities. If I ask you individually, not to write, but to think in your own heart, what is one of those realities that I have seen? Every one of us could list one. List one reality of inequity. That's something I want you to frame. Realities of inequities. List one reality of an inequity in school. All of us could do that. All of us could do that. All of us could do that. Now, here's what a champion does. I've never said this like this before. Here's what a champion does, Sherry. A champion steps in this reality, and a champion says, maybe I need to lift up this little boy. I'm going to lift him up. I'm going to put him on my shoulder. I'm going to put him on my neck. Anybody remember those days? Your dad, your uncle, your mama put you on their neck. They hold your two hands. Maybe that's what your heart says. You're seeing what's going on, and you step right in, Sherry. You say, come on, jump up, jump up. You put him on your neck. Use that as a metaphor and think, what could I do to put him on my neck? But then watch me, Sherry. Here comes something that I've been frank with you. I have never shared this before. It just came to me just now. That's how my mind works, Sherry. Maybe you want to step in, Sherry, and say to the guy on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks. You may want to step in and say, hi, jump down, jump down. You don't need so many blocks. Give me the blocks. That's the kind of person I am as well, Sherry. Maybe we need somebody to say that. To say to the student who is on all these blocks, say to the teacher, the superintendent, the board, the parent who is standing on all these blocks to say, hey, they were supposed to be shared. You have taken up all the blocks, and that is selfish of you. So you have choices now, Sherry. You could say, jump up on my shoulder, jump on my neck. You could be saying to the other guy, hey, get down. Give me some of those blocks. Or you could be saying what a student said to me about a year ago when we had unpacked this picture. She said, Dr. Campbell, 2 things she said. Oh, Joe, come on now, Joe. Come on now, Joe. She said, can we just move the fence? She said, I would literally move the fence. She said, I want to just move the fence. So we just have 3 examples now, Sherry. But I'm going to give you the 4th one that Andrew Campbell did not think about. A student in my class raised her hand. I will never forget this happened in 2019. She raised her hand and she said, sir, this is one of my best class. It was such a good lecture. She said, but sir, something is bothering me. And I said, tell me. She said, do we know how the persons in the seats got tickets? Ooh. Anybody with me? Anybody with me right now? Anybody with me? She said, can we figure out how the students in the seats got their tickets? Allison, that's not my credit, Allison. That's not my credit. There's a student in my class, 2019. She just sat there and she said, can we figure out how the students in the seats got tickets? She wasn't caring about the fence, nor the blocks, nor the bricks, nor the this. She was looking at access and how access is granted and who grants access. So I wanted to think about that. Who grants access? How is access granted in our school? Write down that somewhere for me. Who grants access? How is access granted in our schools? I remember there was a report in a certain school board the other day, and the person says parents were tapped. It's funny enough, somebody used that word to me just today. Parents were tapped for opportunities. Who are the parents being tapped for opportunities? Who is doing the tapping for opportunities? We forget that access is important in our school. Many of our students don't have access. So what we want instead is the liberation. So what we want instead, let me get to you. What we want instead is this. We want liberation. We want liberation. We want liberation. I'm going to ask you a question. I want everybody to go to the chat box at this time. Take your time. You don't need to rush. I want you to write one thing for me in the chat box. What does liberation looks like in my school? Not Julie's school, not Sherry's school, not George's school, not Mary Jane, not Neda, not Lena. I want you to write, Nicola. I always like to see you, Nicola. You're always here. Hi, Nicola. I want you to write for me in the chat. What does liberation look like in my school? Let's get to the chat and get some of that. What does liberation look like in my school? What does liberation look like in my school? Access to opportunities, Mark. All students in all spaces of the school, Michelle. Differentiated instruction. We are so over that already. I don't know why, and it's necessary. Thank you for bringing it up, because somehow we have gotten so over differentiated instruction. It's a thing. Julie, sense of belonging. Freedom to be, powerful one. Kim, you're on my side right now, Kim. Choice. If you know the power of choice, we have to offer them choice. And sometimes, hear the truth, choice takes more work. But it's better when my students get choice. Somewhere, someone has what they need, feels safe and can grow. The sense of belonging, student voice, feeling of safety, a sense of belonging, celebrating our students. So I see somebody says celebrating Black excellence. But I also want to put beside it, celebrating excellence, period. Celebrating excellence, celebrating Black excellence, but I'm going to tell you why I said excellence. Because you and I, we have somehow we have decided that excellence looks one way. I have been to school. I was a part of that system where the only person who would get an award was the person who got the top score in maths and language and poetry and this kind of stuff. And when you look, all the excellence in the school was academic excellence. There was no other excellence that we celebrated. And we realized we made a mistake. And so the next time we looked at other ways of excellence. So we look at the sports and the art and the drama and the helpfulness. We look at all kinds of excellence. We look at even this child where the compassion and the empathy was so strong. Excellence. I love what you said here. Redesigning with students' community voice. Today I had a meeting and I listed in the meeting all the Black communities within a certain kilometer of the university. And I said to the organizer in my meeting, I said, I did my homework. I said, here are a list of Black organizers where Black people gather. I need you to use the outreach people and the resource people to connect with these communities. So I researched the list. I'm not going to be making the calls and I'm not going to be sending the emails. You now take it on to the next level with somebody else. But at the point I'm making is you have to be intentional about these things. They're not just going to happen. Some of us, we have these great ideas and think people are going to knock on our doors and say, hey, include me. Hey, include me. That's not going to happen. Go be a champion. Knock on their doors and say, I am having a party. You are invited. But you know what we want, Allison? We want the people who are outside to knock on our office doors or our classroom doors and says, I hear you're playing some music. Can I be invited? You got me just now? You got that just now, Allison? We're playing music in our classroom. We're having a great time. And as a teacher, because we are so powerful, because we are the principal, we are the superintendent, we have the degrees and the master and the PhD, we are the certified ones, we are the ones with the 6-figure and the parking spot with our name on it. We have the power and the privilege. So we are going to sit, cross our legs, we play our music, and we're expecting those who are disenfranchised, those who are afraid, those who are ashamed, those who have low self-esteem, those who are hurting, those who don't belong, those who are excluded. We want those people to knock on our doors, to beg us to come inside so we could embarrass them again. Do you know, Sherry, why many people don't ask us for help? Because the last time they asked you and I, we didn't give it to them. So they decided I'm not going to ask. You know why I don't ask to be on your committee, Allison? Because the last time they asked you and I to be on our committee, we told them no. You know why they don't want to be a part of our change plans, Neda? Because the last time you and I was in charge of the change plans, we told them no. So we have to learn as the educators, the teachers, the leaders. It's our job. It's our job to go outside and say, hey, we're having a party. Come. Oh, no, you don't have to bring anything. Come. We have to do the invitations. We have to do the invitations. We have to break the barriers, Diana. We have to break the barriers, Diana. Diana, a champion is a barrier breaker. I'm going to write that down. A champion is a barrier breaker. Look at Diana disrupting my workshop though and giving me all kind of good juicy stuff. Look at Diana giving me all kind of juicy stuff. I'm adding to my list. Allison, take note. I'm adding to my list. I'm building my own capacity, Allison. I don't know about you. But that's what I'm doing. And it's come from Diana. We have to be the barrier breaker. We're asking the same. Listen this, Diana. Listen this, Diana, because you get it. We are demanding, and listen me carefully, we are demanding the racialized, pushed aside, marginalized, excluded, low self-esteem, disability, anxiety, mental health issues, poverty, unemployed people. We are asking them to come to us so we can do the lifting. we can do the work instead of we opening space to them to welcome them. We need to break the barriers and welcome people. We need to open the doors, move away the fence so we can have space. Make the space for them. I want us to really think about champion. I think I've never had this conversation like this before. I don't think I've ever had the conversation in this way before. Never. How do we become champions? What does that liberation look like in my school? So here as we wrap up, we're gonna leave you 9 minutes. We have to go. I'm gonna leave you with a few things that I really want you to remember. And don't you worry, you have seen almost all of them before, but we have to keep repeating them. I want you to realize there are actions we're gonna do. We're gonna focus on ourselves with the growth, with the capacity building, with the reflection. We're gonna focus on being better people. We're gonna come to a better understanding of others and realize that I see you. I see you. I had a student write me an email the other day. It was just so powerful. She said, Dr. Campbell, I want to be like you. I'm talking about university because something happened. So let me give you an example what happened. With the thing that happened the other day, the murder of the family member, Sherry, in London. I have Muslim hijab wearing student in my class. Whose job you think it is, Sherry, to check on them? You? You? You think it's your job, Sherry, to come to my school, University of Toronto, online to check on my students? No, that's my job, Sherry. That's my job. I am the professor for the class. How dare me think it's not my task? So I sat down and I sent emails to all my students who are identified as Muslim because I know them and I check on them and I offered, listen me carefully, offered those who may need an extension or those who may stay away from class. It's what I just did, Sherry. I think you get it. You get what I just did? It's a rough time for them. I want to check upon them. I don't need them to send me 3 and 4 paragraph letter explaining themselves. It's my job, Diana, to break the barrier. And so I intercept that. And I was so, one of them said to me, I will be in class, sir, because Monday and your class is the highlight of my week. And for me, that was tonic, that was medicine, but watch me quick, Sherry, that was also reminder of my responsibility. So I want us to understand that. The next one is inclusive school culture and climate. How are you doing that? How are you doing that? How are you creating an inclusive school culture and climate? How are you starting that? I was telling you, I always tell the story when I started teaching at a particular school. And the principal, I don't know where he got it from, but he had the Canadian anthem in every single way you could see. I mean, he had it in Spanish, he had it in opera, he had it in First Nations, he had it in certain First Nations languages, I should say. He had it in French, he had it in English, he had it with just drums, he had it with just the violin. And then one day I was in class, living my best teacher life, Mena, and guess what he had it in? Jamaican reggae. Jamaican reggae. I was like, the Jamaican anthem is not even in reggae. I have never heard my Jamaican anthem in reggae until maybe about 2 years ago. This white principal had the song, and then of course he know I must be living my best life. He said, he went on the mic and he said, when the anthem was finished, he said, "Good morning, Mr. Campbell." I was like, this is why I work so hard in this school. This is why I give up all my lunchtime for dance class 5 days a week. When you belong somewhere, ooh. When you belong somewhere, when you feel a sense of belonging, when your principal has shown you he has been a champion for you, and he actually has been a champion for me in many ways. When he wrote my reference letter, I said, thank you. Like he put the details in the letter. He made it clear to whoever it concerned, this is a star, and his name is Mr. Campbell. How are you being a champion? Think about your school culture and climate. Are you growing? It's come back again full circle, Sherry. Sherry, look like you're the person, you're the name I call the most this evening. Don't worry. Every evening I call somebody named the most. That's just you. You're just the special one this evening with the most names. Right? We're coming back full circle again with the growth process. We're coming back full circle. Are we willing to learn? Are we willing to unlearn? Are we willing to work? And then the last one, I love the last one. Determine your role. I'm going to rush to that for a reason. Determine your role. What is your role? Is it that you're going to be racist? Is it that you're going to just be a prejudice and bias so you couldn't care less because these people don't belong there? Is it you're going to deny this is our school? Nothing like that happens. There's no racism here. We are Canada. We are not like America. There's no slavery here. We never had slaves. That's not true. We never had segregation. Anybody saw the news? We had an LGBTQ beating and coming from Toronto Island. I think it was 2 Sundays ago. It was on the news. I just couldn't get over that. Are you going to be a bystander, a pretender, a box checker? Yay! I came to the meeting this evening, and that's all. That's all. You came to the meeting. I have done workshop in places where I know people are box checking. Even the way they ask me to do the workshop, it's just full of box checking. And I say to them, that's not what we're doing. I can't do that. So I want to leave that with you. I want you to think about yourself as an ally, as an intentional actor, as an advocate, as an activist, as an accomplice. We like to use that word. It's a word we're using more now. It's a part of your building too, you know. It's a part of your capacity building. We're using the word accomplice and co-conspirator a lot more. It's okay to still call yourself an ally, but we are being encouraged to call ourselves accomplice and co-conspirator. And I like it. I like it, but I can tell you, if you are not there, don't use no big word. Don't use any big title. It makes no sense to call yourself an accomplice when you are not doing it. So I want you to be that person. To be, as Diana says to us, be that barrier breaker. Be that barrier breaker. Be that barrier breaker. Be that barrier breaker. Be that one. Be that one that is going to say to us, hey, we can do better. Hey, we can do better. Hey, we can do better. We can make changes. We have the capacity. Remember we said it in the beginning, capacity to do better. So let's think about that before we go. We have 30 seconds to go. We have the capacity to do better, and we have the moral courage to do the work. The capacity is the skills. Remember now, we need the skills. We need the competencies. We need the knowledge. I don't want none of you going out there, don't know what you're saying, don't know what you're doing, don't have the proper terminologies, don't have the proper words. You need that. Andrew Campbell, that's me. I need that. I work on that every day. But also the next part you need is the moral courage. And you know why we need both, Sherry? I don't want you to full of moral courage without the knowledge. Because if you do that, you're going to hurt somebody. You're going to hurt somebody. There are people who believe you should just call out. I'm going to call you out for that. I'm going to call out Neda. I'm going to call out Allison. And I'm going to call out Julie. As a matter of fact, you, Nicole, I'm calling you out 2 times. Laurel, I'm calling you out 3 times. You're laughing at Nicola. You're getting called out 3 times, Laurel. What is that going to do when we are going to build? Because now I have Nicola don't like me. Laurel is pissed at me. Mary doesn't want to be on no committee with me. Julie, don't even want to come to any of this foolish workshop. Sherry is done. How are we going to get the work done when we have just destroyed each other? So I believe when you call out, you must call in. You must call in. Pull that person aside in secret and say to them, hey, let's do it. So I'm going to leave that with you all. Let us get the skills we need to be those champions, and let us have the moral courage we also need to be that champion. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for engaging. Thank you so much for being here. It's a good place to start. Collect all you can collect. Fill up your cup. Fill up everything when you come to these sessions. You're going to need them next year when you're in different positions and you're growing and you're working. And for your own development, I want to leave this with you. Somebody came to me for a Caesar workshop for his company. And he said to me, if my company is not going to do it, I'm getting together with my friends and we'll be paying you for the series. He said, I need to grow as a father, a dad, an uncle, a community person, a manager. I am invested in my own growth. Would you believe he sent me a follow-up email requesting the proposal and the cost and every single thing so they could start the work with a group of friends. I'm going to leave it as that.